Well, it's playoff time, and we're going back to the bullpen. We're going to look back a little bit on 25, look ahead to 2026 with the Astros, and talk about the wild card series where 3 of 4 are going to a Game 3.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, man, I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat a low in the way you can't hit it. You know you want to start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walk your back, looking like we ain't cool then. The game's over, might as well put them back to the bullpen, oh yeah.
That's right, everybody, and we are here back to the bullpen. We are in the bullpen with the bullpen king himself, Mike Stanton. You like that?
I don't think I've ever been called the bullpen king. I've been called a lot of things, but king ain't one of them.
Well, hey, you know what? I think that your resume speaks for itself. And so, you know what? For tonight, you're the bullpen king. Mike, tell everybody where they can find you.
I got big shoulders. I can handle it.
So where can they find you? All over social media, right?
Yeah, all over, X.
There you go.
And I don't even know if it's all over. Mike Stanton 29. That's the only place you can get me. But, this is going to be an interesting podcast just simply because we're going to talk about the Astros in a situation that we haven't seen them in like over a decade. You have to go all the way back. I know 2016 they didn't make, but 2015 they did make the playoffs. That was when Dallas Keuchel absolutely shoved in a Yankee Stadium to knock the Yankees out. That was part of that's the beginning of the hatred that the Yankees have for the Astros.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a situation we just really haven't been in with the Astros over the last, 8-9 years.
Yeah, no, and it has been quite a run. And I don't think the Astros are outside of a window of where they can't get back to the playoffs next year. But there are a lot of question marks this year coming out of the season that they haven't had to deal with. Now, we have had the typical, you have a superstar that comes to the end of his contract and he leaves, or let me step back, a superstar that's ending his contract and says, I want to come back to Houston, i.e. Framber Valdez, i.e. Alex Bregman. A lot of guys said they wanted to come back and they didn't. They didn't come back.
Right.
So this team's going to look a lot different next year. I think there definitely has to be some roster moves, and we'll talk.
Hold on. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about the 25 season.
Right. First. No, yeah. I was going to say, I was going to say we're going to hit that on the back end of this podcast. But right now, looking back, what is your assessment of this team overall? Did they overachieve with what they had?
I kind of have mixed feelings here. Okay, and we've had a little bit of time to think about this, and I still really haven't got a real grasp on how I feel one way or another. Because I look at how they ended the season. I look at the fact that, they were at one point, they were 20 games over 500. They had just swept the Dodgers in LA. You thought this team was on the verge of going on a big time run, and they played very well until you got to September. So the bitter taste of how everything ended, having a chance, even, the third to the last game, if you could have, is it third or fourth?
Yeah, it was the third because
it was the last game. If they win that game, you never know what's going to happen. But they just couldn't score runs. They ended the season scoring scoring less than 4 runs in over half of their baseball games. That kind of sticks in my craw a little bit. But then you turn around and you look at the big picture. Yes, okay, they didn't score runs like we've seen them score in the past, but they dealt with crazy number of injuries. I think the only team that had more injuries in Major League Baseball were the Dodgers. And the Dodgers didn't live up to expectations either. They were supposed to walk away with the whole league and not even have a postseason, just go ahead and give it to the Dodgers. Well, that
Right.
didn't happen either. They are on the verge of going to the divisional series to beat the Cincinnati Reds. They're up right now in game 2 after winning game 1. But you look at everything that went on this year. Yes, they played well. At one point, they were one of the better teams in the American League. We
Right.
were all scratching our heads, figuring out how exactly are they doing this. So, to start off with, yes, I'm, little bit of a bitter Betty here, just because of how it ended. But when you take a step back and you look at the big picture, because you talk about people go back to our spring training podcast.
Yeah.
I did not think that this was a great offensive team to start off with. I thought the pitching staff was going to be okay. Especially if some of the guys that were supposed to be coming off the IL, actually did that. Most of that didn't happen. Thank goodness for Javier. It's just, so when I look at the big picture and I go, okay, you know what? This team overachieved. I don't think there's any doubt in most experts' minds that this team should not have been this good. Why were they? Well, you know what? The success they've had, the confidence they've had in themselves, their ability to play as a team, ability to deal with adversity, all that that they've done in the past. I think it showed up here this year. I think Joe Espada did a very, very good job, even though there were times that people were saying he's lost the clubhouse. He's lost. Well, listen, you know what? For a manager that has been, this is only his second year. I mean, I think he's done. He did an outstanding job of both dealing with the media and dealing with the clubhouse and dealing with everything that goes on, all the injuries, the front office, all of it. Not an easy job. So I think he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, definitely. Ben says here, he says, yeah, they overachieved when all the DFA'd players and rookies were winning. When guys started coming back, it took them a while to get going. Jordan, the exception, pitching carried them. Pitching might carry them the whole first half. And remember, and we've talked ad nauseum about what is the number? The magic number was 4 this year.
Yeah.
And they scored 3 runs or less in more games than they scored 4 runs or more.
Actually, I kept my Astros notes.
Okay.
So go ahead, and when I get it all loaded up here.
Yeah, and so to back that up, Ben also says, yes, they did set a record for IL stints in Major League history. Espada wasn't the problem, he said. He made chicken salad out of chicken-ish all year. So he was basically grinding up the parts of the chicken. There were beaks and there were talons in there, and there were feathers.
It's not going to load. It was over. I think it was like 83 games this year. They scored less than 4 runs.
Here we go.
And then on the other side of it, they scored 4 runs. They were like almost like high 600s winning percentage. I mean, it was really crazy how good they were when all they needed to do was score 4.
Yeah. At what point? I think it was 21-52.
I think it was 22. I think
yeah.
So
yeah, it was pretty. It was
tough to win that way. Not impossible, but tough to win that way in today's game.
Because look, I mean, you're looking at these wild card games. The Tigers won Tuesday 2-1. Scooble on the mound, just absolutely dealing 14 strikeouts.
Did we see like the creme de la creme of left-handed pitchers at the beginning of this wild card? I mean, Scooble was incredible, 14 punch outs. Crochet was outstanding.
Yeah.
For beating the Yankees in game 1 in Yankee Stadium. He shoved. Blake Snell, oh my gosh, he threw 7 really, really strong innings for the Dodgers. He's usually a 5 and dive guy. I mean, it was pretty impressive to see. And the crazy thing is, Scooble was throwing. He didn't throw a pitch under 100 miles an hour in the 7th inning.
Yeah,
now he was emptying the tank, but oh my goodness, I mean, the first day of this wild card postseason, this wild card series. Man, my goodness, the pitching was just outstanding.
Oh, yeah, outstanding. And, the reason why I mention that is because it's not like you have to come in here and beat the brakes off of a team unless you're the Dodgers. But what counter would the Astros have had they faced the Tigers in the wild card? Would they have the same fate they did in 24? Because that was part of the problem. They faced Skubal, and then both Brown and Valdez didn't have their best. They chose not to use Kikuchi in 24, and I still kind of wish they would have.
Yeah.
But in 2025, you never really had a full team vibe. And I think Joe Espada mentioned it at one point. He goes, everybody in the clubhouse wasn't all on the field, all in the lineup at the same time. You had Paredes, who is heating up, was on fire. And you're like, okay, Jordan's out maybe when he comes back. But by the time he comes back, Paredes is out. Right. And then by the time Jeremy Pena has taken over that leadoff spot, boom, oblique strain. I mean, and it was just one thing.
Yeah. I wish the notes would have loaded, and I could probably find a couple of older notes. Listen, Joe Espada used like 140 plus different lineups this year. I mean, a lot of that is because of the injuries, and it just shows the versatility and the creativity that he and his coaching staff and the analytics department and Dana Brown, all of them have, just trying to put a team on the field, much less, winning the division up until the last couple of days of the season. So it really was an interesting roller coaster season. Didn't end the way we wanted to, but this team played over their skis.
So the last media notes that was put out on September 28th, Lance McCullers versus Alderegi. Mm-hmm. The Astros put out, going into that game, 153 different batting orders.
That's 153, folks. You got to remember, the team only plays 162. That is incredible.
Oh,
that
wow.
Is 153 different lineups.
Now, okay, I know you and I have talked about this before, and I know you say that it doesn't really matter, but when you're in, I feel like when you're in the last 2 or 3 weeks, doesn't it help though, consistently going to the ballpark, knowing that, this guy's hitting in front of you and he's gotten a couple knocks or I don't know, 153 different lineups.
Well, it can, but this was out of necessity. It wasn't because he wanted.
Well, that's true. No, right.
If you had Jordan and Pena, and now you would still had some mixing and matching at the back end because you had guys coming off the IL, guys going on the IL, the back and forth. But if you had your horses, you had your thoroughbreds at the top of the lineup, in the middle of the lineup, then you wouldn't have had. Now, listen, they probably, even with those guys, you probably still would have had well over 100. But 153, that's just a remarkable number.
Well, hey, why don't we do this? Because remember AJ Hinch when he was coach, okay, in 2017,
he was manager.
He was manager. They had 143 different lineups.
Yeah.
I just looked that up. The last game of the season, Astros.
What would be interesting in this is if I'll make some phone calls. I wonder what the average number of different lineups across Major League Baseball is. I bet it's pretty high. There's not very many teams that just have 9 guys they run out there every single day.
So in 2022, Dusty Baker rolled out 130 different lineups. Yeah. The last game of the season.
And I remember, people complaining about, why is he changing the lineup so much? Mm-hmm. Well, heck, he was low at 130.
Yeah, it won't let me go back to 2015, but I was just trying to see. It basically my notes start at 2017.
Okay.
But that's, what? I didn't even realize I even got game 7 World Series notes here, 2017. There you go. Look at that. Look at that inside access. So let's talk about this, because there's been a lot of talk, a lot of water cooler talk. Joe Espada returning, Dana Brown returning. What is your confidence of Joe Espada coming back for the 2026 season? That's the last year of his contract.
I think that he is probably going to come back. I don't see any reason. Now, listen, I don't have any inside information.
Right.
Um, I you know I don't know what the conversations behind the closed doors are, but I think that he has been the right man for the job the whole time. And even though there has been some hiccups here or there, and there's some moves that you question, a lot of times these guys don't. And I say these guys, I'm talking about all big league managers. They don't always get to make the moves that they want to make. Sometimes
True.
it is some of these moves are made by the analytics department. Some of these are made by the medical staff, meaning, okay, our closer can't go tonight. You have to go somewhere else. You end up getting a blown save, and you have to answer the questions in the post game. Well, why didn't your closer pitch? Well, Dusty Baker was the one that always said, well, I had like 5 guys that I couldn't use. He had no problem pulling punches to throw somebody under the bus.
Right.
Joe doesn't do that. He would always kind of just grin and bear it and take it on himself. But, I thought Joe has done a really nice job. He's still learning. You got to remember, he's been a big league coach for a long time, bench coach for AJ. But, you turn around and you look, he's only been managing for a couple seasons. So
yeah,
he's still getting his sea legs underneath him.
Yeah, definitely. I know Martin Maldonado announced his retirement from baseball after this year, and everybody's like future Astros coach. And
could be.
Someone, and I actually joked the other day. I was like, can we hire Bruce Bochy and Dusty Baker to joint manage together, and then we put maybe Martin Maldonado on the bench, or Omar Lopez at third, Dave Clark at first. If we're going to go away from a spot, can we have like a super conglomeration of like great, managing talent? But at the end of the day, no matter who the skipper is, whether it's Brian Snitker, whether it's Dusty Baker, heck, whether it's Sparky Anderson, right? The players have to execute. The player, like Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone, to every Yankees fan, should have been fired 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? I mean, there's a lot of Yankees fans. They just want Booney out, and
they get beat by the Red Sox tomorrow.
I'm just saying, they don't win,
yeah.
But the thing is, he got criticized for pulling Fried in game 1, but it wasn't that he put Weaver in, because Weaver, his last 6 outings, had not given up a hit or a run.
Right.
And
so he was the right guy.
He put Weaver in, and then Weaver loses it. Well, the guy's got to execute. So that's not on the coach. But just like when I coach, I tell my players, if we lose, I'll take the blame. If we win, I'll give you the credit. Like, I don't need the credit.
That's your job.
Right. But it's just one of those things where now with Joe Espada coming back, and I have heard throughout the year rumblings here and there about there not being a lot of cohesion in the clubhouse between the players and Espada, but I don't know like what that is, right? There was also talk about
and that, what, that may just be scuttlebutt. That may just be people talking. Listen, Joe Espada was loved for years and years as the bench coach. Okay. It's not like he doesn't know these guys. It's not like,
and that's the thing. Right. And so when I hear that,
what do you need? But here's the question. What does a player need from a big league manager? Okay. Protection from the media, protection from the front office, and, stay positive as much as you possibly can.
Right.
Make the right moves that give me some examples where Joe just completely and totally missed the boat. I don't know very many.
Yeah, right. And of course, you have your people that are your classic Monday morning quarterback. Well, they were nitpick, and it's easy to criticize from afar, right?
Sure.
It's easy for me as a fan to look at that player and go, how did you let that ball go down the plate? Well, you know what? The ball's coming at 97 miles an hour. You have in your mind what pitch you're sitting on. When he doesn't throw the pitch that you know that he's going to throw on that 5th pitch, and he throws a heater down the middle, that jelly legs you almost every time.
Yeah.
But going into Dana Brown, is Dana Brown more at a crossroads of being not here because of his job is more involved? His job is about constructing a roster, and the return on investment that Jim Crane's gotten on these players that he's gotten, they haven't really panned out. Jesus Sanchez, Christian Walker. I mean, these guys, we know what their ceiling is. We know what they're capable of. But could we see Dana Brown possibly being let go?
Personally, I don't think so, because you're talking about a guy. Wasn't this really his first full season of being a general manager? I mean, and I'm not talking about just for the Astros. I'm talking about being overall. He's never done this before.
Right.
But, last year, 2 seasons ago for the Astros now, yeah, he was the general manager, but he wasn't general manager all the way through the offseason when when your team is built. So this was really the first time. I don't really see Dana leaving. I don't. I mean, could it happen? Of course, anything can happen. But I think that this is a situation that Dana just really hasn't had just all that much time to really figure out exactly who he is. And you have to remember, Dana Brown isn't making all the moves by himself.
True.
All these moves, and just like the same thing with Joe Espada, a lot of the moves that are being made are organizational moves. I mean, there's other people that have voices, even in the day-to-day operations on the field. There's other people that have voices in this. And Dana Brown is the same thing. Now, he may be the guy standing at the podium, telling you, telling you who they're bringing in or who they're not bringing in or whatever.
Right.
But as far as who's actually making the decisions, that's a much more complex answer.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Astros future, my friend Jimmy actually put this out today. He said, the Astros will have a first-round pick in the teens next year, their highest pick since 2017, which is huge. They should also receive a comp pick if or when Hunter Brown finishes top 3 in Cy Young. Hopefully he does. Now,
is there still compensation if Fromber leaves?
If Fromber leaves, they will get a compensation pick. Yeah. They will, yes. And then, so next summer, the draft is going to be crucial to add another strong crop of talent to the system.
Well, hold on. Now, that is where Dana Brown, this is why, to me, this is one of the main reasons why Jim Crane brought him in, was to rebuild the minor league system. So that was everything that's happened in Atlanta over the last decade, Dana Brown had his hand in all of that.
True.
And I think that was one of the big reasons why the Astros, had this long run, but their minor league were depleted. And I think that's where that's supposed to be Dana Brown's forte.
Yeah, no. And maybe it's like, what do they do with the draft this year? What players do they acquire? What players do they go get at the trade deadline? And look, at the end of 2026, unfortunately, there's more than likely going to be a work stoppage. Don't go there. You don't. Okay. I understand where you're going. Okay. Now remember, I have been through this many, many times. Okay.
Okay. You're not talking about a small industry. You're talking about a 11 to $12 billion industry now.
Right.
Okay. Baseball is now big, big, big business. Okay. And I know there's a lot of talk about that, but start off with, we're way too soon because they're not even really negotiating yet.
True.
I went through, when we almost lost the sport in 1994, when we had to go on strike, and then there was a lockout. We lost the World Series. We almost lost this sport. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
It actually took 1998. And the as far as the players were concerned, the home run chase between Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, that was,
I remember that year.
Big parts. The Yankee team I was on, we won 114 games and won the World Series. One of the best teams ever to walk on a field.
Right.
75 games over 500 by the end of the World Series. that's what really took to put baseball back on the map.
Right.
Now, are there issues? Of course, there's always issues, and there's always everybody's thinking Armageddon. But what you have to try and keep is a calm, cool, collected mind that that those are they're going to get it done. Will it go down to the deadline? Of course, it'll go down to the deadline. It always goes down to the deadline. I was involved in the 2002 negotiations when the first time that we did not have a work stoppage in Major League Baseball, and we haven't had one since. So I think that.
So you think that trend continues? I do.
I think you're talking about an industry that is just too big, and there's too much on the line for both sides.
Right, because you have them talking about wanting to do realignment eventually. You've got two teams potentially coming in. Ben Verlander with flipping bats just put up a bunch of numbers of like record numbers and attendance and viewing for Major League Baseball. I think Major League Baseball is starting to get things right. I still wish MLB.TV was not. If you live in Iowa, you're blacked out from like 9 different teams, which is insane.
Well, listen, there's those things. Those are all things, but those aren't really negotiations with the Players Association.
No, exactly. They're completely separate.
I mean, Players Association is involved in that stuff, but that's not the stuff. It's more about the luxury tax and all that kind of,
the floor, the ceiling, right?
Basically what happened in 1994 with the owners, which was Major League Baseball. The owners had decided they're going to try and break the union. And you don't really want to challenge professional athletes. And that's what they did. They challenged us. Well, it didn't work out very well for them.
Exactly. That 1994 season, the Expos, there's a new series coming out.
I can tell you right now, nobody was beating that team. I was with the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
I mean, they had like a 9-game lead over everyone, and they were stacked. And to tell you the truth, here's the unfortunate thing about that situation, and it'd probably come in whatever documentary you're talking about.
Right.
That strike is what killed baseball in Montreal. Because they went ahead, they went and won the World Series. They probably get a new stadium, and who knows? And to tell you the truth, Montreal is on the short list of expansion teams for Major League Baseball. There's only one team in Canada. The Blue Jays are the only team that have a whole country behind them.
Exactly.
Montreal has been pushing hard. They already have financing for a new stadium. And they've had it for a couple years now. That's a stadium that's downtown. That's be a baseball only stadium.
Right.
The Big O was a brutal. It was in a terrible place. It was a brutal stadium.
So did you pitch there?
Oh, many times.
Wow. So was it a pitcher's ballpark or a hitter's ballpark?
You had to hit it to hit a home run, but the turf was lightning fast. Okay, so it was kind of
grounders were literal worm burners. I mean,
yes, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, that
only
makes
thing
sense.
That stopped them was the outfield wall.
Yeah, God. Yeah, no, well, that, and then you had the Superdome in Seattle.
Yep.
You had that thing. I remember in '98, McGuire hit an upper deck shot there.
Oh, many, yeah.
Golly, that just,
Safeco Field. That's the field that Junior built.
Yeah, there you go. That's true. That's true.
Not Safeco anymore, but that's what it was.
Sorry. Right. Yeah. I think it's T-Mobile Park now.
Yeah.
Is what it is. But we've got a lot of former Astros that are in the playoffs. The Blue Jays have Miles Straw. They have George Springer. They have Joey Loperfido. I'm sure they've got some other farmhands or someone in there. In
they're all over everywhere. I just watched Kike Hernandez just made the last out an inning and a half ago.
And people forget he started with the Astros.
He did.
And then you got the Padres has Martin Maldonado, who's announced he's going to be hanging it up. The Padres won today 3-0. Machado, Luis Ariz, and then Fernando Tatis Jr. came through for them where they were like 0 for 11 in game 1, and today they were 3 for 7. Kyle Tucker over there with the Cubs. Red Sox, Alex Bregman tried to play hero again tonight, and
it was a big part of yesterday's win.
He was. So, Bregman, postseason hero, the guy's good in the postseason, but Kyle Tucker, he wasn't known for his postseason contributions offensively. And the first 2 games, he hasn't really done much. Now
Well, to tell you the truth, nobody has really done a whole lot.
Well, that's true.
I mean, when you look at, it has been a pitching dominated postseason. Now we're only talking about a handful of games, but the Reds and the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Reds and Dodgers.
But the Reds scored late. They were already down 10-0. The Dodgers scored 10 in game 1. The other 3 games, nobody scored more than 3 runs. So they were all pitchers' duels. And then today wasn't much difference. The Guardians, they scored 6 runs, but 5 of them were in the bottom of the 8th.
Yeah.
They late. But Padres scored 3, Cubs didn't score at all. Yankees, Red Sox was 4-3. Great baseball game. It's been dominated, and it's not really that much different than what's happened all season. Pitching has been very good this year, and it's so far so good, keeping that pitching at the top rung in the postseason here.
Exactly. So, knowing that the Astros aren't there, looking ahead, we've got yet another star, Framber Valdez, who's at the end of his contract, who says, I want to come back to Houston. There's people that have told me they think, well, gosh, I just don't know that Framber's going to thrive in another city. He's got all the, he breaks down on the mound mentally, and he's comfortable here. He's got a camaraderie. Are there chances that his ego lets him sign a deal that would be team friendly for the Astros? Or is there even a chance that the Astros don't even really offer him a deal?
I don't think it's an ego thing. I think it's a business thing. When you work very hard as a player to get to free agency. Okay. And it's really the first time, especially when you're a really good player and have lots of value like Framber does. For the first time in your career, you have the hammer. You get to decide where you play. Okay. And that's not something that a lot of players ever get the chance to do. I was lucky enough to do it a couple times, but so I don't think it's really an ego thing. Okay. And listen, will the Astros make an offer? They may. We know it's not going to be a long-term deal. Yeah. And just simply because the Astros just have not done that.
And they may try
especially with pitching.
They may try to make a qualifying offer or a little bit over.
Oh, he'll get a qualifying offer, 100%. And if he takes the qualifying offer, and because it's probably going to be, I don't know, $22 million. Yeah. Which is a ridiculous, crazy amount of money, but he's probably looking for 30 plus per year.
Easily.
And a multi-year deal. So, the Astros, the qualifying offer, I think, is a shoe-in. Okay. That's the whole type A person or type A free agent situation. And you get, draft pick compensation and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So the Astros will absolutely do that. But as far as a long-term deal, what is the longest term we've seen? We saw him sign Lance McCullers Jr.
And that
hasn't worked out. What's the longest other than that has been 3 years.
Right. And, what I'm wondering is if Framber's not re-signed, which I don't think he will be. I think it's unlikely. Can they get someone like a Ranger Suarez, or is Ranger Suarez going to want too long of a deal, too big of a deal? Because if you could bring in a Suarez now, bear with me. I know Justin Verlander's a little old, but his last 7 starts were phenomenal.
Yeah.
What are the chances of them bringing him back on a 1-year deal, being a number 4 or 5 starter, where that he's not one of your main guys, but he's had a couple runs here. Yeah. Jim Crane and the Verlanders are close. You bring in Suarez, you bring in Verlander. That's not a bad 2-3 or 2-4 punch to throw in there with Hunter Brown.
Yeah. So I listen, Suarez, we'll have to wait and see. The one thing we don't know what the markets are going to look like. Okay. And now the problem is if the Astros are going to go to the top of the free agent market, there are long-term deals that's what it's going to take. And we're talking about 5-6 year deals. And I just don't think that Jim Crane's willing to do that. He hasn't, he hasn't done that with, some of the big hitters, much less pitchers in the past. I love the idea of bringing back Verlander. Okay. Even if he is just mediocre, when you bring on a future Hall of Famer, there's mystique that goes with it. He's still Justin Verlander, even if he's not Justin Verlander that's winning Cy Youngs. But you got to remember, he won a Cy Young just a couple of years ago. I know he's older, and but he's not the same guy. But it wasn't like, well, he hasn't won a Cy Young in 7 years. It hasn't been that long.
No, right. It has been, and just I mean, I've been in the guy's presence, and he commands a room. And Mike, I've been around a lot of Hall of Fame players, and I know that you have been in the presence and in the company of great players, and you just know there's those certain guys that there's just something about them when they walk into the room. There's the feeling is different. It's the energy changes. And that's what it's like with him. And so he could be someone, because I don't think people are saying he would cost too much. I don't think he's going to be that much at his age.
It depends on if you're talking about Monopoly baseball money or if you're talking about,
because
real money, because he's not going to play for nothing.
He's not going to play for nothing, but then the Astros
could you get him for 10 or 12 or maybe 15 million? Probably.
Yeah. So, but yeah, look, someone goes third time's a charm. Why not?
Why not?
Justin Verlander.
Hey, you talk to any old time baseball expert, they'll tell you there's no such thing as a bad 1 year deal.
There you go. Okay. You heard it here first. And see, here's the thing. This is why we like discussing these things, Mike, because you have the experience. You bring that expert analysis that I can't bring. I mean, I could read all the books, I could go to all the websites, but you've lived it. And so, I think we will continue to assess the needs of the Astros. I think we will continue to assess where we think this club is. Maybe in a few days, there's some definitive statements from the owner. Hey, they're here. And, Dana's like, I'm still the GM. Joe's like, I'm still here.
Right.
So, it was interesting, because the press was like, so do you think you're gone after this year? Like, well, as far as I know, I'm still the GM.
That's right.
And I'll be here tomorrow and the next day.
Until I'm not. I'm here until I'm not.
Until I'm not. That's right. Yeah. But I think the playoffs are going to be really fun whenever we get the number 1 and number 2 seeds involved. The guys that are waiting in the wings, the Mariners, the teams like that haven't yet played, because wow, there's going to be some fireworks out there.
Tell you the truth, so far it's been fun because
it has been
tight baseball games, and that's what who am I rooting for? Nobody in particular. Okay, what I want is every series to go to the very last game. I want the World Series to go to Game 7, the 9th inning of Game 7, maybe the 10th inning of Game 7.
Wow.
Okay, and because as soon as it's over, that's it. Baseball's done until springtime. And so I want good competitive series. I want to watch, on the edge of my seat to see if the pitcher's going to be able to make the pitch or whatever. I don't want blowouts. That's not any fun.
No. Well, and I think I'm still going to do it. I'm just going to hang my hat with the Blue Jays. And
maybe you can wear your Padres hat again.
Oh no. And you mean my Pirates hat?
Pirates, not Padres. Pirates hat. Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, look at this 70th World Series patch. I mean, look at that patch is phenomenal. That is a great 70th World Series patch. It's a stained glass edition from the Hat Club. And so I wore that tonight, and everybody thought I had jumped ship to Lock On Pirates. So, well, hey, man, this has been a great show. Look, someone says this is Trastros. They must have come in from a time machine from 2017. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. We appreciate it. All right. Well, hey, we will be back. We'll be back, probably this weekend. I know our schedule was a little off. But we do have, we will have an interview with a current Astros player next week. And so we'll let y'all know who it is next week.
That's called a tease.
That's right. So y'all make sure y'all come back and join us, but just make sure the notifications are on, subscribe, share, everything. We would love for you to return, share with your friends. Go get your Backs of the Bullpen shirt. The QR code's right there. The most comfortable shirt on the planet. You can work in it. You can sleep in it. You can go on dates in it. You can do whatever you want in this Backs of the Bullpen shirt. It is versatile. So y'all make sure you do that. Someone said, Brett, tell us. I will tell you, he has a pulse and he played on the 2025 Houston Astros. So
it was a big part of the 2025
was a big part. Well, for myself, for Mike, for everybody here at Locked On Astros, we appreciate y'all.
We're not Locked On Astros.
Wait, we are Back to the Bullpen. I'm sorry for Mike, for Brett, and everybody here at Back to the Bullpen.
Wow. I can't let that go.
Oh no, that was terrible. That was a really bad miss, swing and miss. Kind of like Aaron Judge in the postseason. Anyways, yeah. All right. Well, hey, see, I had to get that little dig in. So for all of us here at Back to the Bullpen, y'all have a good one, and we are out.
Adios.
I'm looking to the bullpen to bring my lefty in. Keep the lead and make your team look pedestrian. It's in your wheelhouse, we'll swing for the fence. You know it's money around here, man, I ain't talking expense. Strike one, heat a low in the way, you can't hit it. You know you want to start a rally, but you better forget it. Strike two, off speed, same spot, your car looking. Get ready at the plate, this time you're not cooking. Strike three, swinging out of the zone. You ain't even touch it first. Tell me how they gonna drive you home. Walk it back, looking like we ain't cool.